guys, and welcome back to We Are Tottenham TV as Tottenham travel to the San Siro to take on AC Milan in the last 16 of the Champions League, while Arsenal fans were sitting at home watching the Emmerdale omnibus. First of all, a big happy Valentine's Day to everybody out there. Hopefully you've all got what you wanted, a bit of loving as well. But look, it's your boy Dave, your boy Sean, bringing you the pre-match pulp-up. And look, just quickly for myself, look, I don't think today is as foregone as many people are predicting. I actually think Tottenham will turn up today. Tottenham usually are at their best when their backs are up against the wall or everyone has to roll off. I'll go back to last season when we had 13 sort of fit players to finish out the season. And you would say, arguably, we were probably at our best. But, Shawnee, how are you keeping, my man?
Great, Dave. Great, mate. Yeah, it's been a tough kind of few days, I feel like, as a Tottenham fan. Like the flip-flop of mentality, of energy from Manchester City to where we are after Leicester. I was at that game. You know, it was a real tough experience seeing us capitulate the way we did. And then obviously the injury news that has come, you know, everyone in the community feels like, I don't know a single person that still, you know, got particularly high expectations for the rest of the season. But you know what? I woke up today and I started with a video I put out yesterday, kind of trying to get this like carpe diem mentality. And I'm trying to get something in my mind that can grasp towards that can kind of find positive vibes. And I feel like maybe, you know, the idea, you remember Gareth Bale, mate? Remember Gareth Bale? He was, you know, hit and miss until the Milan game, you know, and that was his coming of age. He rose up and that was the trajectory, the catalyst, the rocket boosters for his career to just turn on to the next level. And you never know, mate. It's going to be a tough evening with Sarr and Skip. We don't know what these two, they've played together. I don't think they've even played together, have they? But they've, you know, not played very much for Tottenham. But look, they're both players that we can look towards. I know we're going to talk about all this, but so I'm trying to feel, you know, more up for it. And of course, this is the pump up show, so that's what we're going to do.
Look, at the end of the day, it's called the pump up, but, you know, you've got to win to get pumped up, don't you? You know, and it sort of comes with the territory you win. You're more optimistic. If you don't win, there's a lot of things to discuss. I see a lot of people saying their lineups are actually out already. I'm just having a look for them here for you guys to see if they are actually out. But, Shawnee, just one quick thing I would like to throw at you, my man, is, look, that defeat we suffered to Leicester was probably the worst performance I've seen in a long time in a Tottenham jersey. It taught like hunger, desire, passion, you know, a winning mentality sort of thing. Do you think we are capable of bouncing back, especially with some big injuries we have, like a Lloris, Basuma, Bentancur? I'm not going to say Session's a big loss because he's not. But is this squad capable of bouncing back from something like that? Do you expect to see a better performance tonight?
Well, I expect to see some sort of, I'm not sure what the word is, but like a fight back. I think that everyone saw the lack of kind of energy on the day against Leicester. I think everyone. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw it on TV, but Harry Kane walked over, got about as far as the edge of the penalty area to say thank you to the fans. Sonny walked about between the penalty area and the middle of the centre circle. Nobody else even came over. I felt like I remember during the game. Yeah, and I felt like during the game there were lots of periods of breaks where there was injuries or the VAR decisions or things that there was like 2 or 3 minutes of time that was going by where there was no football. And you'd think when you're 2-1 down, 3-1 down, even 4-1 down, you'd think that there'd be some amount of like get together, someone turning around, yelling, bellowing at the teammates, trying to get some kind of camaraderie. And there was none of it. Everyone was just standing there, hand on their hips, looking at the floor. It looked miserable. I don't know why. I mean, I do know why on the day, in isolation, I understand it, but there's a little bit of a feeling like I feel like there's a bit of a deflated energy through the squad. And it takes something like this. I heard Harry Redknapp on TalkSport saying, like, no, come on, they need to rally, they need to rise up. Like, this is why you qualify for Champions League. It's for nights like this. There should be no shortage of energy going into it. And you know what? Having someone like Harry Redknapp in the dressing room right now with that kind of that general positive energy, I think would be a catalyst for it. I hope that Conte can do the same thing tonight. Let's talk about the team as it is already out, my man.
Yeah, just quickly, I just want to say, look, I do think, you know, these players owe the fans an absolute performance today. I think, look, we were all embarrassed by that shit show on Saturday. And look, I actually called for the club to reimburse the expenses, food, travel, petrol, and ticket prices to them fans who travelled, because it was an absolute embarrassment. And them away fans have been absolutely incredible all season long, and they did not deserve what happened there at the weekend. But look, Harry Kane will also have a point to prove. I'm sure he'll have his eye on the captain's armband, once Hugo Lloris is finished. So for me, I think he'll want to get a couple of wins under his belt, and I don't think he'll be happy with the stain that's on his name with that Leicester defeat with him being captain either. But look, we will get in and talk about these lineups. Of course, it's Fraser Forrester retains his place in goal because of Hugo Lloris's injury. Romero's back in the side after suspension, because the suspension is the Premier League, doesn't carry it over to Europe. Dyer is in the middle again, which, look, I think he should have been dropped. Lenglet brought in for Ben Davies, which I agree with. Royale at right wing back. We've got Perisic at left wing back with Sarr and Skip in the middle with Kulu, Son and Kane. So it's pretty much what I expected the formation to be today. On the bench, you've got Brandon Austin and Alfie Whiteman, both goalkeepers. Sanchez, Davies, Tanganga, Pedro Porro, Alfie Devine, Danjuma, Lucas and Richarlison. Not surprised to see Devine on there with the lack of midfield options. So look, for me, Romero coming back in, I think everyone could see how much of a loss that guy was against Leicester across that backline. When I look at that backline performance, Romero's the only one that really, and I know a lot of people sort of get on his case for getting stuck in, and he is liable to a booking, but we missed that against Leicester. So I'm very glad to see him back in that team. Dyer, look, I would have liked to see the guy dropped. I think there has to be accountability when you put in the performance that he did put in against Leicester. And interesting to see Antonio Conte's press conference, Sean, where he sort of said, some players, they can play under pressure. Some players, they can't. They absolute crumble. I think he's getting at Dyer as being one of them. Langley for Davies, I'm happy with that as well, because I do believe Ben Davies should have been dropped after that suicide ball that he played for Leicester second. Royale, now, look, I'm happy to see this guy back in the team. One thing I didn't agree with after the weekend, look, I did say at the time on the pre-match pump-up, I actually thought he got the Royale Porro decision wrong. I thought it was, criminal to drop Royale after performance against Man City. But I've seen a lot of people, who I've seen criticise Emerson, berate Emerson, sing songs about Emerson, then using it as a stick to beat Conte with. And it's like that sort of double standard I can't get with. It's like you got what you wanted. It didn't work out, but now you're moaning about it. Perisic looked absolutely woeful the other day. Defensively, there is some problems there, but going forward, we certainly need them. Sarr and Skip in midfield, for me, this is an opportunity for these boys to really step up and they claim. There's been a lot of, fans maybe saying, look, has Skip questioning him? He's 22. He's not going to get too many chances. So I think it's a big game for him. But also Sarr Torre, the star man, the Sarr man. I think this guy is one I'm looking forward to, Sean. And I'll tell you why, because with Bentancur being out injured, right, Shawnee, you're going to miss that composure, the guy who pulls the strings, the calmness in that midfield. And I would argue that from what I've seen of Sarr, he's the only other one that really sort of has that in him.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with Sarr Torre since he's come in, mate. I think he's a breath of fresh air. I love the fact that, when he gets the ball, he'll turn, he'll pass it. Wherever he's passing it, he runs towards that direction. He wants it back. He's also got the propensity to try and miss a player, which for me is something that I absolutely despise about our backline. Like, there's absolutely no confidence, zero confidence with the backline to be able to pass, like skip one of them out and go to the next guy, get that zip across the pitch, try and make some space by getting the ball left and right a little bit faster. It just doesn't happen. But I think Sarr does do that. I'm intrigued to see how they do it. Listen, come of the hour, come of the man. Talking about Conte saying people crumble under pressure. We will see what happens tonight, because it is a baptism of fire for Sarr and Skippy to work together. I think, I'm not sure, but I think for the first time, certainly in a 3-4-3, if we do go the 3-4-3, which I'll be interested to see whether or not there's slightly different instructions, whether or not Kulusevski or Harry Kane or Sonny, whoever it might be, I doubt it would be Sonny, but is given more of an instruction, not necessarily to hang out. Like, I think if it was anyone, it would probably be Decky. Don't necessarily hang out on the touchline too much tonight. Maybe come in where possible and support Sarr and Skip, because look, those two, whether if they step up, we can do things tonight. If they don't, if they do crumble under the pressure, then it could be a really tough night against an AC Milan team that, look, I know Like they're having a very volatile season themselves. I spent hours earlier on looking at AC Milan's form on the Y Scout tool, going through their bits and pieces. They're a team that I think has scored 5 of their last 7 goals have been headers, but also about 5 of their last 10 goals conceded have been headers, right? So there's like some aerial kind of opportunities or vulnerabilities that Tottenham might be able to take advantage of. Their goalkeeper, I think, is particularly vulnerable. Hi, Ash, how you doing, mate? I'll just finish my point and then we'll bring you in. And I think that, look, Perisic could have some joy tonight with the corners, right? I think if we can get up there and try and get set pieces, I think that their defense is quite shaky, quite vulnerable from what I've seen. But like I say, it all depends on how we set up, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Kulusevski maybe be given a slightly different role. I could be wrong, probably am, usually am, but if it was me to go straight typical 3-4-3, I think there could be that's a little bit too much risk, and I'd hope that Conte has a little bit of nous and thinks maybe to change things up a little bit. I would also say, I take your point. Just last thing I'll say is you were mentioning Dyer should have been dropped. I completely agree. I think there was an opportunity maybe to do something different. But on top of that, I'd also say that you could have made the argument to play Danjuma ahead of Sonny. Yep. I was hoping that under a new Pedro Porro coming into the right, the rebalance of the way that other teams are going to set up, as I see it anyway, I think that could have freed up Sonny. Against Leicester, another example of him getting the ball, trying his hardest to try and create something for himself, but just holding on to the ball always half a second too long every time, getting his pocket picked. And I think that, for me, in a world where, Emerson Royale is back in the team, I would have liked to have seen maybe Danjuma get a start, or Richarlison for that matter. But it's not to be. We'll see how we go. And that's my take on the lineup.
100%. Look, before we let Ashmatic in, I have one more question for you as well, Sean. But I just want to say, look, with Kulu, Son, Kane, Perisic, look, I would actually be instructing them to shoot on sight today. This guy brought his name up here. Where is it? The Romanian goalkeeper.
Tatarusanu, yeah. He's
I think
he's rubbish.
Fourth-choice goalkeeper. He's been drafted in. And Milan have conceded, I think, 19 goals over 7 games since. They're not on good form whatsoever. And this guy actually only had eye surgery back in November. So he's got eyesight problems. So if I was there, Antonio Conte, I'll be instructing these guys to shoot on sight.
100% agree with that.
Yeah. Any opportunity, because it was astigmatism in his eye. And I believe what that is, it's like your vision gets blurry. You don't see straight lines and stuff like that. So for me, test this fucker. That's what I would be at. But Shawnee, one more question I have for you before we get Ashmatic's thoughts on the lineup is, look, many people have called for Antonio Conte to maybe change it up, suit what he's got, go for a back four. He may be disappointed that we haven't looked to do that in this game.
Look, I think I spent Sunday night on Savage Show, and there was 5 of us on there, and we spent an hour and a half spitballing ideas around what we could do with the formation, and every one of them looks difficult, right? Like, going to a back 4 and then going to a 4-2-3-1. I think that there's massive issues with that one. Going to more of a different kind of version of a 3-5-2, doing things, bringing Richarlison in and letting him drop deep. We all kind of summarised them. It doesn't really matter. Like whatever formation we pick, it's thin with options. And obviously off the ball, we're going to pivot back to that kind of 5-4-1 thing anyway, and then try and break. If you are going to break and try and pick the pockets of Milan, you probably do want, you want to have those 3 players up the top end where they can break fast. But like I say, for me personally, I don't think it should have been Son tonight. I think it should have been Richarlison. But look, someone mentioned in the comments that Conte doesn't do change. Conte doesn't do pivot. So, look, it's about what I expected. And when we looked into all the different options available, going to a 4 at the back, it didn't fill me with any more confidence. And I also don't think we've had enough time necessarily. Sorry, I'm rambling here. I don't think we've had enough time since the Leicester game. We've had 72 hours. We didn't know that Bentancur was going to be out, right? And so, like, that whole shift and pivot to be able to to invoke a whole new strategy in the absence of Bentancur, there's probably not been enough time to plan it out. So if you did go to a 4-2-3-1 or something else, it would probably be a case of the players wouldn't be entirely confident of what they were doing. So I think it probably makes more sense to stick to what you have and just hope that that the players can turn up and do the job.
I would also put the argument out there that I think once the manager starts maybe changing what he believes in and what's brought him success, you lose the dressing room, you sort of give the players the power. And, it doesn't always work because Pioli, actually, the guy we're playing, the guy of AC Milan team we're playing tonight, he's changed from a back 4, from a 4-2-3-1 to a 5 or to a 3-5-2 4-2-1 or something, or whatever it is. So he's actually changed formations to protect his back line, because they never replaced Kessié when he went to Barcelona in the summer, and the back line is being broke on when it was in a 4. But he's actually still getting the same problem, switching to a 3 at the back to try and make it more defensive and a more cohesive unit. And he just looks resigned to being sacked in a minute. So I would actually argue that it doesn't always necessarily work out either. Be interested to see what happens tonight. Anyway, but Ashmatic, how are you, brother? How are you keeping?
Yeah, I'm good, man. No, I'm good. I'm just joining them, chiming in. So, yeah, hopefully the boys can do the job. Hopefully the boys can do the job.
I hope so. I hope so, my man. I think we're all living in hope right now. But look, Ashmatic, what's your thoughts on the lineup? You've seen the lineups there on screen. I mean, what's your thoughts?
I think it's business as usual. I think it's at this stage, I don't think he's going to change things, because he's got a squad of players that know the formation inside out. And we never had this problem last season, albeit that we had less games. I feel like the 3-4-3, they've been taught in a specific way to understand the system, that if 1 or 2 players are out, you've got similar players in that similar mode to fit into those positions. So whether or not you had your Bentancur there, or we switch a Davies to a Longley, it's pretty much business as usual. So I think the difference really being is the 2 young boys, they have a bit more mobility, a bit more, I don't know, fitness. I wouldn't say fitness, but a bit more agility on their side as they are more youthful. Obviously, the downside is they're going to be inside the San Siro, which they've never been before. The crowd's going to be against them, and so whether they can rise up to the pressure. But sometimes I think young players, if they can play without no fear, and they can play with a lot of energy, high tempo, aggression, and literally just do their jobs defensively as well as pushing the ball into the front 3, because that's what our strength is. In Kulu, what's this on the thing?
Ash, I was just going to interject there. Just wanted to hear your opinion on this. So Paul O'Keefe has brought this one up. He's saying, according to UEFA, on the UEFA website, I guess, he thinks that the team is out, but same team, just with a different system. We were speaking about this, whether Perisic could be the guy that could step in and be more of a guy that can help out in the midfield and then kind of be more. I don't know if it's we'll find out.
For me, if that was the case, and because the last game, Perisic was the highest wing-back forward against Leicester. It's just whether he has the legs and whether he has enough energy to go up and down the pitch. He's going to be the link between the defence and the attack by the looks of it. Because Skip, for me, is not very... When it comes to attacking, he hasn't... I've seen him push up in a free, and he hasn't really got that ability. He looks better when he sits, and I think the same as Saul. Perisic could be the link, and that's the reason why I said to you earlier before about having Danjuma behind Kane, because Danjuma has physical ability, but he also has the ability to hold on to the ball. I know he's more of a wing forward and he dribbles a lot, but if you've got someone that can hold on to the ball in the middle and that can get it to Kane, get it to Son, without Kane dropping in, having Son's not able to dribble past players like he used to, or dribble to space, as well as he has done in the past, having that next player in there, I would have preferred to see Danjuma than a Perisic in that formation. But at the same time, I do understand if Perisic is there to cover that defensive stability, just in case we lose the ball and we go back into, I don't know, a 5-4-1 if we lose the ball. I do get it at the same time. However, Perisic for me he's not that great defensively. He hasn't been shining as well this season defensively, albeit that the first Man City game he was terrible. The second Man City, I thought he coped a lot better. When we conceded most of our goals, most of the goals were through the middle. It wasn't really down to Perisic, the reason why we conceded all those goals. By the first one, I thought he should have came out and closed. He should have closed down Mendy a bit quicker after that corner came in and he hit it top corner.
Yeah.
But I just feel like
it's just like, don't drop to the ground and open up the goal. Stand there and take it.
And so I think these players that are being picked again, their managers Conte's asking them, like, can you revive yourself? Because there's nothing worse than being a player, knowing that you've played awful, played shit, that you've had more in the tank, but you need a second chance. You're like, I want to redeem myself. So I'm hoping we see a different Dyer. We see a Dyer that's closing the ball down, Dyer that's making himself big, putting his foot out, blocking shots, that's the reaction that Conte is going to want from the players. Whether we see it is debatable. We'll find out when the kickoff happens.
He's got to stop stepping off, right? That what
yeah,
he did against Leicester, the amount of space that he gave between the midfielders and the back line, it was just absolutely insane.
He has to be more brave on the literally before, because I know what he wants to do. He wants to intercept the ball a bit like what Dyer does. I see Davies trying to copy him as well. Not Dyer, sorry. A bit what Romero does. Romero tries to time his challenge before the ball gets into the play. He tries to intercept. He tries to make that challenge. And I think Dyer wants to do that, and he's trying to anticipate it. But where he has a small doubt that he can get the ball, that's when he doesn't do it. And then he stops and he drops off. And then that's when problems happen. So I think Dyer just needs to be a bit more brave, a bit more assertive, be the leader he is, because he's not afraid about pointing fingers and shouting and telling people where to be. But he's got to step up now. Because at the same time you're saying, be here, do this, do that, you always see him pointing and shouting at people when they're not doing their jobs. They got to have a go at him if he's not doing
he's got to do his at the same time, right?
He's got to do his at the same time, so he's got to be positionally spot on. And I just feel like the thing I worry about is having Sarr and Skip in the middle. Both of them, when it comes to being positionally aware, like where they should be on the pitch, sometimes a player gets sucked into the ball and it leaves holes and gaps into the midfield. So I just need Sarr to hold his position. I need Skip to hold his position. I can't leave holes in the pitch, and that puts too much pressure on our three centre backs, especially when there's one in the centre and the other two split. So it gives you all the space in and around the centre back. There's too much pressure, and the keeper as well. The keeper is going to be pressurised as well. If the defender's not doing his job or is blocking his sight, the keeper's going to react a little bit late, and that's what was happening in the Leicester game when he was getting beat.
Speaking of the Leicester game, Ash, right? Like this is a screenshot that I took for the third goal, right? So we've just lost the ball. It's come back to the man on the left-hand side. I forget that was. He's just launched it up the field. I got absolutely no idea what in the actual fuck is going on here. You've got Pedro Porro that's been standing out on the right-hand side, and he hasn't received the ball. He's been doing what Doherty used to do, been told to stand on the touchline on the last man, wait for the ball to come, but the ball was never coming. You've got three players on the left. You've got Sonny, Perisic, and Højbjerg that have been drawn in, all within 8 yards of each other and 8 yards of the touchline. You've got Ben Davies that's on basically the same line of longitude as Perisic. You've got Bentancur in the middle, marking no one. And you've got Eric Bloody Dyer 20 yards behind.
Where's Tanganga at this point? Sorry, where's Tanganga?
Tanganga's on the right-hand side of the.
So where's Porro? If Tanganga's on the right,
Porro's right up by the linesman.
But the thing is, we can't have a go at the wing backs for being pushed right up, because it's what they're asked to do in the formation.
100%.
If we lose the ball and they're caught out, you're relying, and that's why we play three across the back, because we're relying on them to be able to spread out, cover that sort of gap, and defend. But you look at Eric Dyer here. I mean, I'll start to question.
What is he doing?
Does he know the basics? Does he know the offside trap? Does he know what it is?
It's I don't know how has he got like he's 20. I don't know if he I watched it back. He wasn't. I'm pretty certain he wasn't like the guy who launched the ball up from an offside or something like that. So he's trying to. I think he's just 20 yards offside, 20 yards behind the ball. I don't know what.
This is the third goal, right? This is the third goal.
This is the third goal, yeah.
So the second goal was where it broke. Tanganga was 2-on-1. So I think in his head, I can't push too high up. If I push too high up, we're gonna get done. So I think that's what's setting it. It's not the right thing, but I think that must have crept into his head. That's why he's so far back. No. There's no other reason why the whole team's pushed up into the mid third of the pitch, or the middle of the pitch, and he's in our final third. Do you know? In our final third, in our half, and he's all the way back.
Here's how it ended up as well. Sorry, I'll let you carry on.
Go on.
But this is what happens, right? So the ball comes down on the right-hand side. I'm not sure if you can see it on the screen. Can you there, Dave?
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, mate.
It's just enjoying the cover.
Yeah, the ball gets taken over. He obviously dragged. Iheanacho's got acres of space to run into the gap, and Eric Dyer he's doing the pointing again. Ben Davies has managed to get back and is also pointing, but he ends up turning. Like literally losing sight of the ball.
He's back to the ball.
Yeah,
he's got his back to the ball, but not only that, he actually turns the other way round. So at some point he's lost complete vision of the ball, and then 10 seconds later it comes over here and he tucks it into the bottom corner. Like it
basically
was shambolic.
Dyer hasn't got what I call lateral movement. Lateral movement means you're able to pivot, or you're able to turn at speed when someone else he couldn't keep up with Iheanacho. That's why he's got caught with his back to goal. So basically what he wants to do is he wanted to stand them up, but because Iniacho got on the wrong side of him and was able to turn him inside out, because Dyer was running with his back to goal. So that's the reason why you're seeing his back to goal like that. So he's running back to goal, running back in that position, come over, and Iniacho's basically gone one way, then gone the other one. He's turned him. And because he hasn't got the mobility, like, he's literally been caught right there. And that's the reason why we've got that screenshot right there. So I just feel like Dyer just needs to set himself a little bit better positionally. He needs to be positioning a bit better. And he just needs to, if you've got a player like Iniacho, he needs to clamp on him. Just like how they were aggressive. Remember against Man City, Romero was aggressive on Haaland. Davies was aggressive on his man. Dyer was very aggressive. He wasn't aggressive. He gave him time and space, and he got punished because he was too loose. Go on, sorry.
This is something we see all the time from Eric Dyer, though. This isn't the first time this has happened. These aren't like, I was doing tactical analysis after last season game, so I pulled up a number of images of Eric Dyer doing this before. The thing is, the guy doesn't have it in him. He's not confident, and he doesn't back his own ability. That third goal. Instead of dropping off, because this is something he does all the time. I've seen him drop from the halfway line all the way to his own 6-yard box, put in a challenge. But the reason why he doesn't do it is because he's afraid of being skinned and he doesn't have the base.
That's it.
And he knows he can't really time his tackles. But with Eric Dyer, it's like he lacks it positionally, he lacks it mentally, and he's just useless. Like that.
Dave, on that note, then is it silly to have like both? This is the point that I was making. Right? I was terrified even before we signed Pedro Porro. Terrified of the prospect of playing Pedro Porro and Perisic at the same time because of the weakness in our back three. Both of those wing backs want to get forward. They are far, far, far better.
We'd have the centre backs for it.
We haven't got the centre backs for it, so I was always worried about: are we going to see both of them? Now that you've got no Sessegnon for 8 weeks, at some point you're going to see Pedro Porro come back in. For me, it's terrifying, but I think that maybe the instruction to say, get forward in the initial thing there where Eric Dyer's 20 yards behind the play, you've got Pedro Porro on the offside line, you've got Perisic almost there on the other side. Like, should the instruction be one of you, not both of you? Because you can't have Eric Dyer isolated with Tanganga or Romero on the right and also Davies or Longley on the left. Like, we're just not good enough. And so needs must until the summer, one of you, not both of you, make that move.
Yeah, I haven't got a screenshot, but basically the average position was Dyer was the highest. Not Dyer. Perisic was the highest of the two wing backs. And Perisic was more inside, more than out wide. And I think when we did push up, Porro was like playing more deeper like an Emerson. But I think that Emerson needs to cover Perisic at left wing back certain times in the game, so we don't risk injuring him because his hamstrings will go at some point. I think that's going to be a given. So I think sometimes we're going to have to. It's not going to be sexy, but like you said, we can't have both wing backs pushing forward. One of them has to push forward, and I think maybe just sacrificing Perisic. I'm not saying a whole game with Emerson. I'm just saying at some point in the game, I think his minutes need to be managed, and maybe put like a Royal at left wing back, and then let Porro push on and switch over, if that makes sense. Because that's the only way. That's the smartest thing for me.
We've seen Emerson probably play the grand total of about half an hour this whole season as the inverted left wing back, and it brings me back to the point. I never understood the logic behind getting rid of Matt Doherty. There were people out there that were criticising. I understand he was useless, right? But when you have two wing back, we had 4 wing backs when Porro came in on the right hand side. You let Jed Spence go out on loan. Why also let go of Matt Doherty when you know that on the left wing back situation you have a guy in Sessegnon who's as fragile as a paper cup,
injury
prone, like the most injury prone left wing back in the league, and you've got Perisic who's 30, whatever it is, 34.
Doesn't make sense.
Like, and who can't run the minutes. And the second that you do that, Lady Luck shines on you and says, "Oh no, I'm going to destroy your options now." Like Matt Doherty, if he wanted to go on loan, fine. But then when he couldn't go on loan, when we realised we made that mistake to cancel his contract, rather than, I know that he wouldn't have been able to play in this game because we were oversaturated for the European numbers for the Champions League or whatever, but he could have played a part, and it didn't make sense to me cancelling his contract, especially if we paid out his salary anyway. Like, why not just keep him there? Keep him there.
Contract. At the end of the day, at the end of the day, lads, you know, if a player comes to Tottenham and he's not putting in the performances and he couldn't do it defensively or going forward, what's the point of keeping him? He's dead weight at the football club. And this is our problem. We keep these players for too long instead of shipping them out. I'm delighted what we've done with him. It sends out a statement. But look, hindsight's a wonderful thing. How many...
Of course, I understand that. Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
I'll go back to how many fans were calling for 2 attacking wing-backs. Many fans said he needs attacking wing-backs. It's what makes his formation. You know, if we had on the front foot defenders who actually want to put their bollocks on the line and their body on the line instead of turning their back, twisting and turning like they're doing the cha-cha slide, it would look a lot better. Yeah. And the thing is, you know, we're all saying now keep Matt Doherty because of Sessegnone's injury, but the reality is Matt Doherty wasn't doing it. He wasn't performing. That last game he played, he done nothing going forward and offered nothing defensively.
I just don't see the benefit in cutting his contract, though. Like, I don't see the benefit of doing it. You're paying him out in full.
There's no value in him. If Atletico really wanted him, they would have put the money in for him. We've got to realise some of these players that we've accumulated are that dead wood. As Spurs fans, we may slap 10 million. Sure, you get 10 million. But that's to us. You have to have other managers out there, other clubs out there that see that value. And the reality is they don't. How many clubs have come in for some of these deadwood over the last few years? Barely any. Barely any. And like, this is the thing. Hindsight is a wonderful thing. I know. I hear what you're saying. Pero and Perisic pushing further forward, but it just highlights that back line even further. With Romero being out of it the other day, it highlighted the guys' deficiencies even further. They cannot defend. They're not good enough. But look, this probably brings me on to a question, a bit controversial, but something I've been asking everybody. Is Antonio Conte the problem and underperforming, or is it that he just doesn't have that back line to bring success?
It's got to be the back line for me. The back line, as you saw, 4-1, it's unexcusable. It's just the personality types. It's the ability, like I was saying, the mobility, the agility, the physicality, the mentality, the bravery, all of those attributes you need as a defender. Defenders, they're meant to be like hard men. Like, you think of the top defenders back in our lifetime. I don't want to mention the names, but, you know, you got your Terry, you got your Adams, Campbell, etc. That's from us. I know. Ledley King, there you go. But see, with Ledley King, he had mobility, he had the legs, he had composure on the ball, something that Dyer doesn't have. That's what we're missing at the back. Someone that's really composed at the back that can bring it out and link between defense and midfield. And under pressure, they're still not rattled. Whereas you get Dyer, he's too sometime-ish. All of our defenders, they're too sometime-ish. Sometimes they'll have a good run of form and then it'll just go all the way out. It will just go completely through the pan. So I just feel like defensively, like, he's an Italian manager. He prides himself on defense. That's what Italians are known for. So
why didn't he ask for a centre back then? Why didn't he ask for a centre back?
I don't know the situation at Tottenham Hotspur. I would like to think he did ask for a centre back. We don't know. I wish I was a fly on the wall. But
all we can take. Well, you're right. None of us know, but all you can take is the noise, the words of the man himself. And when he was asked after the Villa game, when there was 2 clangers, he was asked in the post-match press conference, "Do you think that we need to improve the defensive capabilities?" And he said, "No, my centre backs are good enough." And I know what you're going to say. He's not going to throw back to this. He's not going to throw players. But hang on a second. Hang on one second. He's not going to throw the team under the bus. Yeah. But then in the pre-match press conference or the post-match press conference for Leicester, he calls everyone choke artists. So he is willing to criticise the players when he wants to. So if he
I think he's doing it now because he knows his time's coming to an end, Sean. I think that's why he's doing it now, being honest. But look, you know, you say I know he said that after the Aston Villa game or before it, Sean, but also after the Arsenal game, he spoke about the defensive problems, you know, their attributes, this, that, and the other. And because he was asked why don't Tottenham press higher up the pitch, and he just basically alluded like we don't have the centre backs, they don't have the attributes.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Do that. So on one hand, he has called that he doesn't want them, but on the other hand, he has criticised the back line, and we have been looking at centre backs last summer, couldn't get any over the line, you know, before that as well.
I think that's the reason why before at the start of the season, we used to sit deep a lot. And I think that was the reason why. And then obviously fans are criticising us for sitting too deep. The moment we've pushed up the pitch, goals have been conceded, goals galore. So I always said, like, I like to see teams squeeze the pitch, push up. I love that. I love that type of football because you're front-footed. You're more
when
attacking.
You can do it though, when you've got the squad.
When you've got but when you haven't got the centre backs, they're getting roasted. They're getting done. They haven't got the mobility. They haven't got the pace. They haven't got the energy.
you can't honestly be telling me that Conte doesn't receive any criticism. Like there's this constant debate.
Yeah, no.
A load of people
Not,
are Conte out. Some people are saying it's all Daniel Levy's fault. Other people are saying it's the
Nah.
fans' fault. Whatever. But to me, like there's
100%
there's a
blame on
higher
Conte.
blame. Conte needs to take some accountability. He never does. He never acknowledges anything. When things are peak poor, he comes out and throws the players under the bus, which I think sends a terrible message before the Champions League first leg. I hate that. You know, Dave, how I feel about Conte in his press conferences, all the way back to Mura. I've never been a fan of how
he's been consistent, to be fair.
I've been consistent on that, right? But I think that he sticks his substitutions are always late and always ill thought through. He doesn't change the tactics. And if he is someone, Ashmatic, to your point, who responds to fan criticism about playing too deep, you're paid £15 million a year, mate. None of us have a fucking clue, excuse my French, how to manage a team like Tottenham.
Of course not.
We all think we do. We're all armchair supporters. Why are you yielding to Tottenham fans? And if you think it's not the right thing for the team to do your job. You're £15 million a year coach for a reason. You know best. So if you think the only reason you're telling the team to push up is because Tottenham fan channels are saying, well, it's miserable football. Like, if you think that the defense aren't good enough to do it, then why are you telling the team to push up?
I think he's looking for a reaction from the players. The reason why he kind of said they choke, to see if he can get underneath them. A bit like the Burnley game when he came out and said, "What should I leave? I don't know. I don't know if I'm good enough." So I think he's looking for that kind of response when he comes out with. I don't really agree with it as well. Like openly criticizing, I think he should do it behind closed doors.
Behind closed doors.
I agree, but I just really think he's trying to get a reaction, especially with the game coming up so close. You definitely want to redeem yourself after a poor performance. I know how it is. Literally, you want to get back on the pitch and think, "Oh, I played absolutely shocking," but at least I can rectify it now in this game because it's like in 3 days' time or 2 days' time or however long you've got, rather than the whole week you having to wait until your next game to redeem yourself. But going back to the tactics thing, I feel like with Conte, I feel like he's even alluded that our strengths or Spurs' strengths is the front three. That is where the strength lies. And I think where like we weren't scoring too many goals and we were conceding a lot of shots, we were conceding a lot of pressure, something had to give. So I think the reason why he changed us tactically to push up the pitch, and he even said it one time, he said, "I don't tell the players to push back. I don't." He said, "I've told them to push up the pitch." And that's why we were called second half FC, because we'd come in, first half we would sit deep, second half we'd come up and push up the pitch. And as soon as we push up the pitch, the result would start to turn in our favour. Or we like, for example, Bournemouth, there's other games, I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's games where we've literally first half been rancid, and in the second half we've turned it around because we pushed up the pitch. So I don't know whether it's a thing where it's a personality or personnel, whoever the leader is on the pitch, they're not saying like, "Come on guys, get out," like Dyer from the back, Lloris from the back saying, "Guys, push up. I don't want to see you guys in here. Get out. Come on, push up."
Well, Dyer's trying to be the leader, right? At the moment, he's pointing around. He's bird watching.
Well, you saw that picture when how far back was.
I hear you. If he's the leader of the back line, because Romero doesn't speak enough English, and Davies is a bit of a quieter personality, I guess, then that's a problem. Like, there's no one in the midfield tonight that's going to be the leader because they're babies, right? Yeah. And it's not really their responsibility. Harry Kane is always led by example rather than being vocal on the pitch. Maybe, just maybe, giving that, I'm not suggesting that this is a big influence, but maybe there is a slight influence that the pressure on him, because he was woeful against Leicester. Yeah, he got bullied by the ex-Stoke player from Australia, Suter, and Faish. And maybe the additional pressure of having to wear the armband is like another little factor that's on his mind that takes him off of his game, where he can actually just do his thing. I'm not saying that that's a big thing, but maybe that is the thing. Maybe we need to give Højbjerg the armband when he gets back from his injury. His suspension, because he's the guy that probably is the guy that doesn't have a problem with screaming and shouting, and also does lead by example most of the time on the pitch.
I just want to come in on the Conte thing quickly, and then we have a few super chats to get to as well, boys.
Cool.
Look, I don't think Conte is, what would I say, exempt from any blame, right? I think, look, there are things that are reasonable that you could, aim at him. Sometimes at half-time, could he make a change to make a statement? Probably. Could he make some of them substitutions earlier? Yes, I would agree with that. And sometimes they could be better. But realistically, handing him the team he's got with that back line, it's the same with any manager. It's like handing him a car without an engine and saying, get that running, without having to buy a new engine. It's an impossible task. And here, like, I struggle to put the blame entirely on any manager, because the reason why we see the ups and downs is because we see the ups and downs in a Dyer, in a Davies when they play. One week they can play well, the next week they're complete and utter shambles, they're useless. And it's like, if you're a manager, you're constantly going to be second guessing yourself, second guessing your tactics, because you could set up one game saying, okay, we'll do it to protect Dyer, he was useless last week, but then he's having a good game. And then all of a sudden you're set up too defensively because you have to protect him. Then you have to change your tactics. But then you could set up the next week after him having a good game, saying, okay, we'll set up more attacking. But then he's useless, so you're having to change your tactics. So you're constantly second-guessing yourself on everything you have to do. And, this problem has been here long before Antonio Conte got here. And for that, I can't put that on him, because we've scored 4 goals less than Arsenal this season, and we're top of the league. So we're scoring goals. But we've also conceded the 5th or 6th most goals in the Premier League, which it's way too many, and it's a huge issue, and it's here before Conte. And even if you want Conte gone, the next manager that comes in, he's still going to have the same problems until we address them in the market. So I don't think
it will be even worse, Dave, in the short term, because sorry, mate. If the next manager comes in the next 3 or 4 weeks and he doesn't play a back 5, if he plays a back 4 system, then what are you going to do with Perisic? What are you going to do with Porro? What are you going to do? Like for me, I don't think Conte's staying until this after the summer anyway. I think that the toll that's taken on his life in the last 6 months, losing 3 of his best mates, he's owned his gallbladder. He's probably reflecting on being away from his family a lot. I think all of that stuff is probably and then looks at Tottenham and thinks, am I really ever going to be able to compete with Manchester United, with Newcastle, with Chelsea, with Arsenal, with all that stuff in the long run? Probably not. Probably not with this owner and their willingness or lack thereof to be able to spend big. So he's probably just treading water. But I think he is the right man for the job until the summer, because at least in the summer, there's time maybe to go and to plug some of the holes. But if you bring in a manager who wants to play a back 4 with this squad right now, I think it gets even worse. I think that Pedro Porro suddenly, for me, I look at Pedro Porro and think, I don't want to see you at right back right now. I from what I've seen of you in Sporting and what I've seen of you in your debut, listen, I've got all high hopes for Pedro Porro. I think he's going to be a superstar at Tottenham when he figures out how to play the Premier League system. But right now, I don't think he's a good fit for right back. I don't think Perisic can play in any back 4 system. So we're Sessegnon out for 8 weeks. I don't know what you do. There's no point in Conte walking or being fired or any of that stuff until at least wait the season out.
I just want to take these super chats quickly, because they have spent their hard-earned money, and they want us to have a good conversation. But just on what you were saying there, quickly, Shawnee, for me, I agree with you. I think the problems will still persist with a new manager. You're 100% correct there. But Powder TOG or TCG says, we are putting in goals fine. We aren't stopping them from going in. That's our biggest issue. Ashmatics, I'll throw this one to you, my man. Have your say on this super chat. So he says, we are scoring goals fine, no problem. Like I said, we're up there. We're only 4 less than Arsenal, but we're down in the relegation zone, or we would be in a relegation battle with this backline. And he reckons that's our biggest issue.
Yeah, it is our biggest issue. Clearly, you've already said the stats about how we concede. I think we're the 15th team or something. We've got basically relegation form when it comes to conceding goals. So we often alluded to this 5-4-1 off the ball, but I don't think that's the problem. I think it's when we transition, we get caught with our pants down. So when we're pushing up the pitch, when we're trying to attack, I just don't think we're quite switched on, just in case something goes wrong. Are we in the right position? Is one player there ready? And I think that's the reason why you saw Dyer so far back. I think that was an extreme. But I think where you need a midfielder that's a bit more positionally aware that if we lose the ball, I'm able to hold the play up. Because the whole point of Dyer standing off his man is to delay until all the defenders or midfielders get back into position. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But in that position, when you're 1-on-1 and you're too far back, maybe not. Do you know what I mean? Maybe that's not the route to go. So I just feel like between the centre mids, because we got 2 double pivots, one of them has to be all right, I need to be closer to Dyer just in case something happens, and sit back and have a communication. If Dyer pushes up, I'll sit back, and vice versa. Do you know what I mean? I don't mind at this stage one of the double pivots filling in the back 3. if one of our wing backs push up, for example, and we just form a solid back 4 or 5, even if the wing back pushes forward, which we have been doing. But I just think against Leicester, we just really got it completely wrong, especially when we were trying to push the attack. And also, I feel like we tried to force the game too much when we go up. Like when we concede first or we lose 2 goals, we almost panic and then we try to force it. Instead of just holding on to possession, the players are void of confidence. So give everyone a touch of the ball, give them a feel. And sometimes it's okay to build up slowly, not always direct and fast and hard. Because guess what? The other team might read it, intercept it, and then you're not set. You've lost your shape. And then there's holes all over the pitch, and we end up conceding another goal. That's when we're most vulnerable. So I feel sometimes we just need to hold on to the ball, get possession, and then look for the ball. Even though the team might set and they might find their defensive shape, and we might find it harder to play through, just to get some confidence and maybe get a shot on goal or just build momentum up. Sometimes we have to go for that route rather than going direct all the time, and then one of our players push up because we're excited, like, let's go let's go attack the opposition, and then before you know it, the defensive midfielder or the 2 double pivots are out of position and Dyer's by himself, and then we're like, what the fuck is Dyer doing, blah blah blah, or like one of the Romero, you're useless, or Porro, you're useless, or do you know what I mean? Because they've out of position, because they're like a 1-on-1 or a 2-on-1 or a 3-on-1. That's what's been happening at Spurs lately. We just need to be a little bit more aware when we are doing the attacking phase. So he's right, man. We are good with the goals, but I still agree with you guys. I came in a bit late, and we were talking about the whole Son and Danjuma thing, and Danjuma getting his chance. I just feel like Kulu is better on holding the ball and bringing players in. For some reason, he wasn't doing that well at Leicester, but normally he's really good at.
It was his worst game against Leicester, worst game in the Tottenham shirt.
I do
agree.
Go on. We've got more super chats to get to, so I am conscious about getting through them and conscious about time. But I do take your point. I think you raised some very good points there, Ashman. Your tactical knowledge is actually very good, to be honest with you. I do enjoy listening to it. Sean Frankie Cotton says, in my opinion, we should play a 4-4-2. Kane, Richarlison up front, Son, Kulu, Sarr and Skip, and a back 4 of right back, Royale, Davies, and left back, and Romero as centre back, and then pick your poison. Who plays next to Romero? Do you think, frankly, Tottenham has a point here, Sean?
Yeah, well, listen, I like the idea of Richarlison being in the team. I think that one of the ways that we could get some joy tonight would be, having looked at AC Milan on the Y Scout tool, like zoning in on all of their ways that they've conceded goals and things. I do think they're vulnerable over the top. If you can pivot quick and get it up to the front, then there's a way that you can, expose some of their, I guess, slower players. A little bit sort of more, they're slower to turn players. So having that kind of 2 up top that hang up the top would be a beneficiary and a boon to our chances. However, I think that when you don't have the ball, Tottenham naturally will have to drop to a 5-for-1. I 100% agree with Ashmatic that the problem isn't when the opposition have slow build-up play. The problem is when we lose the ball and players get caught out of position. And I feel like if you have Sonny and Kulu on like just wide positions naturally, then and Kane and Richarlison up top. We start with Sarr and Skippy. I think that could be an issue on the transition as well. So for me, whilst I agree that I think that Kane and Richarlison could offer something up the top, winning the balls in the air and maybe creating chances that way, I think that some of the vulnerabilities would still be there with our back 4. But Ben Davies at left back, he's about as good an option as you've got if you need to do that further down the line this season. But I think today, for what is, frankly, I'll take your point, and I like where you're going with it. I think the system is probably the right one, 3-4-3 today. But I totally agree with Ash that it's about the speed in which we can get back if we lose the ball when we're trying to push forward. That transitional 10 seconds where you have to get everyone to get back, get into position, and get organised. And against Leicester, it wasn't there. If we're going to have any joy tonight, we have to be absolutely pinpoint and execute that system to perfection.
Spot on. Big up, frankly, and big up, Powder. Really appreciate the support, guys. Yukio VI says we need like Arafa and Marquez in the back line. Look, man, we just need more players like Romero who actually, they get a stiffy when they're defending. It gets them excited. They want to make the challenges. They want to just go out full frontal, get hit by the ball. They like relish the pain. It's sort of, that's what you need. You just need centre backs to put their body on the line. I take Ashmatik's point about, Dyer sometimes dropping back to allow players to get back, but he's also got to read the situation. If these players are 30 yards ahead of him, sometimes you just got to come in and clean the house. Get the free kick, give away the free kick, get everybody back and reset. And I'm not sure Dyer sort of comprehends that, but you're 100% correct, my man. And Kaylee Davies says, personally, I'd like to see Bugs Malone at centre-back. Snapping at ankles for sure.
She's got good ball control for sure. She likes to have the ball in her mouth quite a lot. So, yeah.
Big up, Kaylee. Big up. Really appreciate the support. And then El Dante says, Conte has trained this defence. There are teams with worse individuals that are better defensively. Is it down to Conte's training, at least in part? Look, I hear this question asked to Conte as well, right? And look, let's be honest. He does need higher quality centre-backs to make his system work, right? But if we're going to go down to the training pitch, I mean, look, that means like Nuno couldn't do it. Jose couldn't do it. Pochettino couldn't do it. That's why some of these guys were backups in his B team. Some of these guys played in 2019 against Colchester. You know what I mean? We end up going out of the cup that day as well. Some of these guys played against Zagreb and it's more. They're humiliating defeats, And it's got
that was only one contract away. Like this, I've seen that being talked about all week, right? That was 2019. It was 4 years ago. That all of those players, apart from Ben Davies, are still in the same contract. So it's not like it was a decade ago. It's not like it was like, a different era. It's still within a relatively, it's not that bonkers to think that players that were playing then are still playing football for Tottenham now. It's
it is considering their service and how poor they've been. But look, just to answer the super chat, my man, I think, look, Pochettino, Jose Mourinho, Nuno, and Conte, they can't all be bad managers and poor on the training pitch. Sometimes you just have to look at an individual and say, shit. I'll go back to Harry Winks. Many people say, no, there's a player in there. Sim who owns this channel along with Ben, used to love Winksy, but sometimes you just got to face it. Once they've moved on, you've seen improvements in their position. We shipped out Winks, brought in Bentancur. Look at the massive improvements. Sometimes you just got to blame the individual. I get some people don't like blaming the individual. We love our players. They've been here a long time, etc., etc. Sometimes you just got to wake up and smell the coffee and say, hang on, can't keep blaming managers, can't keep putting it all on them. Sometimes you've got to blame the individual. And me, I'm not going to sit here and wait for a fifth manager to come in this door to sit there and just start blaming the individual. I've been on these guys' cases a long time, and I've been proven right the whole step of the way. For me, after 3-4 managers, you can't keep blaming the manager and their training techniques on the training ground. Sometimes you just got to realize some of these guys are just not good enough. You look at Davies, Dyer, they're approaching 30. There's not too much more you can train into them or make them learn. They've either got it or they don't. But big up Al Dante. But look, guys, anything else you want to say, and then we'll get score predictions and end off.
No, just go for it. I was
going to say that I just feel the back line is being shot of confidence massively. And it's just something you just can't train into someone. You can't coach into people confidence. And I feel like even when Sanchez came on, he did a pirouette. Tanganga did a pirouette. Do you understand? And it's like, you can't really neglect. You can't really manage that. You can't. What can you really do? Do you know what I'm saying? When the players are short of confidence and it just keeps coming up on them, keeps coming on them, you can put anyone in that position, and it's going to be the same result. And just going back to the point I was going to make earlier, I just feel like Conte does know, one thing he does know is the Italian league, and he knows Italian teams. That's one thing I will say.
Yeah,
so I just wanted to end on a little confident and plus note, because we've been obviously, we've come off the back of a bad result, and there's no better game than AC Milan to play.
So
for Conte, it's going to be a big one because of the Juventus and the Inter history, right? So
exactly,
nothing he wants more tonight than to see us do one over his rivals.
Absolutely spot on. But look, we'll go with score predictions. Ashmatic, so what's your score prediction this evening, Mama?
I'm gonna go with 2-1 Spurs away win. A shock 2-1. A shock 2-1.
Love it. Shawnee, what's your score prediction, brother?
I'm gonna join him. I think that maybe. I like what Ashmatic's just, that last little point there about Conte. I think he is going to be bang up for this one, and if he's bang up for it, the players that have faith in him are going to be bang up for him. So I'm gonna go 2-1 as well.
Yeah, look, I said at the start.
And a SAR masterclass, by the way. I think we're going to be going, holy hell, we've got Sasa Torre.
I hope so. I really do hope so. What's that David Bowie song? DB put it in there. He's a SAR man. Playing for Tottenham. Love it. But look, for me, guys, I want to say, first of all, I know some people are saying this is supposed to be a pump-up, but look, you know, there's a lot of discussion to have off the back of the Leicester game. Sometimes, you know, once we win, we can come into these games and really pump everyone up. But sometimes there's also a lot to talk about. And hopefully you appreciate these real and honest conversations. You know, sometimes it can't always be positive, the results and that sort of reflect that. But look, for me, I'm not afraid of AC Milan. They've been in big trouble since the World Cup. Their manager has changed their formation. They leak goals. They got a fourth-choice goalkeeper in goals who has eye problems. And they've got massive problems. I looked at their running stats. They're not great. If we outrun them today and outwork them, we'll win this game. And for me, when you've got Kane, Son, and Kulu, who we know can score from outside the box, inside the box, shoot on sight on this goalkeeper, I believe there's goals in this for us tonight. Look, I don't think our backline will be as bad as it was against Leicester. I'm hoping that they've been embarrassed, they've been rollicked, and they'll come out here and put in a better performance. But do you know what? I'm going 3-1 Tottenham tonight. I have a feeling we are actually going to show up. It can't be any worse, and I do expect the reaction, especially, you know, just pride even, you know, just pride in what you're doing. And I expect to see that reaction today. So I'm going 3-1 Spurs. Hopefully you've enjoyed what we've had to say. If you do, you can find Sean over at the Spurs Talk Show. Get over there, smash that subscribe button. He puts out some very interesting videos every single day. I think you'll enjoy the morning walk, so please do get over there and check that out. You can find me over at the Irish Hotspur. I know I'm like Marmite. Some people love me, some people hate me. But look, at the end of the day, I'm only a few away from 9K, so please get over there, smash the subscribe button, help me out. We run a lot of debate shows, watch-alongs, pre-match shows, fan shows, the whole lot. So if that's your thing, get over and check me out as well. And Ashmatic, have you got a channel yet?
No, I've got no channel, but you can find me. I'm about. So just, you'll see me.
Well,
guys.
Stay tuned here then, because you always that's where I see Ashmatic. So stay tuned here. But guys, we're going to end off because I am conscious they want to get the watch along up and running.
Smash the like button, guys. We haven't asked once. I don't know what the numbers are, but they could be a lot better. I know that. So for all of you that are still here, smash that like button up for the We Are Tottenham TV team.
Yeah, exactly. They fully deserve it. Pump out great content every single day of the week. And they've ditched the missus to head over there for the game. Brave move. But look, you know, I think that deserves a like for Ben and Sims Park. Everybody enjoy the game. We'll see you soon. As always, come on, you
Spurs.
Let's go.
Let's go. I trust.
Let's go.